The visual identity is what makes your brand recognizable. It's much more important than a logo, although a logo is certainly a part of the identity. I'm Jeffrey.
I'm Stephanie, and we're from The Offices.
And we're going to look at what you need to include in your visual identity. This guidance is relevant pretty much to any branding process, but here we're using mostly food and beverage examples.
Now, before you start, remember that the best visual identities do go back to a solid brand foundation. So in some of the other videos in this series, we've explained a few things that you really need to define in that brand foundation. Things like your vision, values, value proposition, and other things.
Let's talk about the logo first. Probably the most memorable factor of most identities. The logo is what often people think of when they recall a brand. Some logos are actually word marks, since they don't have a symbol. For example, Planters, Fancy Hanks, Chobani, Plenty, word mark only. No visual symbol. Pizza Hut, Ridiculously Delicious, Patent Sticks Ice Cream, Patron, they include a unique symbol or an image. As your brand evolves, you can change various aspects of the visual identity, but your logo should be designed to stand the test of time.
That's it. Now, another thing you want to define is your brand color. Many brands own a single color, like the ones that you can see here, and others have a combination, like the McDonald's red and yellow. Your color should resonate with your target market and your brand strategy. So is your customer spirited and young, like a Coke, or more sophisticated and cerebral, like a Panna Chocolate customer? There's a certain amount of color psychology which takes place here, but you don't need to get too literal. So for example, Cheerios uses yellow in a fun, innocent way, but Veuve Clicquot makes yellow look chic and grown up.
Next thing to talk about is typeface. Just like colors, typefaces have personality. Some are slick, some are soft and flowing. Obviously, you want to choose the one that's right for your brand. We usually look for around 2 or 3 fonts for each brand, although there's no rule. We look for a versatile font. It needs to have variety of weights, good legibility, fonts that work together on headlines, breakouts, and subheads.
Yeah, and as you continue to build the brand, you're going to need a lot more further down the track. For example, you might also want to consider motion styles, illustrations, icons, chart styles, interactive elements, buttons, lines, and let's not forget the bigger brands are adding a lot of non-visual elements now, such as haptics, sounds, and scents. Photography is another huge part of the visual identity if you're a food and beverage brand. In fact, it's so big, we're going to discuss it in a separate video.
Okay, here are a few complete visual identity systems. Viking. Viking Imports specializes in healthy, clean eating from around the globe. Their heritage is Scandinavian food, hence the name and a lot of visual references. Everything in their visual identity goes back to their brand proposition, merchants of pure flavor. References to sourcing, packing, shipping from suppliers all over the world. Packing tape, Hessian sacks, custom stamps, flags, all that stuff. Chobani. When Chobani launched this rebrand in 2017, the yogurt market was all about perfect photos of unblemished fruit and shiny, happy people. So Chobani went the opposite direction, with hand-painted images based on the art of the 1800s to portray imperfection in the fruit. Their photography shows more authentic, everyday people. Now they've got the #1 slot in yogurt in America. Pretty good.
Yeah, so as you can see, there's a lot involved, a lot more than what we've talked about here. A good visual identity for a medium-sized firm would take between 3 to 6 months, would you say, Jeffrey, to develop, depending on the scope of works. The project will typically start with a lot of high-level steps like the brief, discovery, research. Then it progresses to mood boards, concepts, several rounds of revisions, and the finished art. So on this graphic here, you can see some of the steps involved and where it ends. Now, for the project to be a success, there needs to be a lot of open communication, clear expectation, and all major decisions captured in writing.
That wraps up our overview of what your visual identity needs. As you can see, this is a dynamic process. Trust your designer and build a great brand over time.
Thanks for watching.